I think we're almost ready to get started. So I'm the warm-up act. Hi, I'm Tom.
Hey, Tom. Hey, Tom. Hi, Tom.
That's close enough. I know most of you people. So, yeah, speaker idle, and you know that I'm standing in front of you because Denny can't be with us. And so if you could all send him good thoughts and wishes and hold him in your thoughts, I'd appreciate that very much. So we're going to make the best of what we have here. If you're not familiar with speaker idle, who's here not familiar with American Idol? Anyone? So I'm like Ryan Seacrest, but I might have slightly more talent. I don't know. The thing about Speaker Idol, the big thing about Speaker Idol is this, it was an idea from Denny, and Denny said, wouldn't it be great if we could give an opportunity to somebody who's never spoken at Summit before to earn that chance by having a little contest. Is this the third or fourth year? Fourth. See, these are facts that people should give me before I get up here. I should have cards, but that's all right. So it's the fourth. I know we've done it a handful of years, and let's see, our past winners have gone to work at Microsoft, and let's see, where's David? Didn't David win? Are you working for Microsoft yet? Not yet. Okay, so our speakers have gone on to do, our winners have gone on to do wonderful things. David will get there someday, I'm sure. And yes, thank you, sir. So what we have today is the format is very simple. We have four people that are going to present today, tomorrow, and Friday. The four winners will advance to the finals on Friday. I believe it's the last session of the day. And the three winners plus a wild card. And the wild card will be decided on Friday because you couldn't really do it otherwise. Again, if you aren't familiar with Idol, I'm sorry. We'll have to have a sidebar later. But that's how it works. Who are my four people? You've already done this. You're back again? All right. So hold those hands. 1, 2. 1, 2. Who else? 3 and 4. Okay, so I've got you all right here. Good. So how do we randomly assign? Do I just get to pick? There is an order. Okay, so we'll get the order and we will call you up. I believe you have 5 minutes. You will each have 5 minutes to give a presentation. We will time you, but not cut you off. You need to manage your own time. If I'm not getting this right, I want my judgy people to remind me. Yeah, I want my judgy people to remind me. So part of being a speaker is managing your time. However you do that is up to you. If you go over your 5 minutes, you can expect the judgy people to judge you for that. So a good rule of thumb, if you know you can get about 4:30, 4:45 there, then you wrap it up no matter where you are in the presentation. Unless you got something amazing to show that makes going over worth it. And it better be for that crowd.
We could clarify for a second. The judges start timing when the speakers start speaking.
Yes.
So if you're engaging them in some banter or dialogue, we're going to start the time, right?
Are you talking directly to me now
Yes.
about
Well,
this?
and then
Like,
everyone else.
Is this hurting one of them right now?
Yeah.
No.
Just trying to let them know that when they start talking is when we start timing.
And being judgy.
And being judgy.
So when you take the stage, the first word you start with is when the timer will start. So get your stuff set up, ready to go, and do so in utter silence. That's what I just heard.
You need help, ask for help. Doesn't count against you. But yes.
I would just tell you your first word should be just to know that you're doing it. Is simply go start the clock and then go from there. Okay? That way it's very clear. And don't say, because if you have to ask for help, you don't want one of them to be like, I think that counted against them. Believe me, you can't trust these people.
But if you say start the clock after you've shown us 4 slides, we're gonna count it against you.
They're smart. They're crafty too.
And from a technical standpoint, if you say start the clock, I'll unmute the microphone. So when you're putting it on, it's like in the whole room.
Good point. Excellent. Thank you. Thank you, Tim. Have I forgotten anything? Have I forgotten anything important that we need to do before we get started?
You introduced the judges typically.
Right. That's not important, though. Have I forgotten anything important before we get started? And for somebody that's going to be on the stage, you might want to think twice about your next words.
I thought he was sucking up to the judges very nicely.
I have limited bribe money to spread around. I want to know who's in.
I don't need money, but bacon is always welcome.
Yeah, I know.
Okay. So we're waiting on just the introduction of judges, I think, and then we'll get started. All right, let's do that. So I will have you introduce yourselves, because that's probably easiest, and I will time each one of you.
Hi, I'm Karen. This is my fourth Speaker Idol judging event, I believe, and I'm very judgy.
I'm Joey. This is also my fourth Speaker Idol judging event, and I'm judgy, and I've had to do like 12 talks this week, and my throat hurts.
So we're not going to give you the mic. Mark Sims, I work for the Behemoth.
It's hard to follow that. My name's Kendra Little. This is my first time as a real Speaker Idol judge. I was just a substitute judge for one session last year. I am moderately judgy, and I love cartoons, but no favoritism towards cartoons. None.
Alan Hurt, I think this is actually fourth year as well. Super judgy.
And you are always on.
Yes, and I'm always on.
So we don't need a handheld for them. You're going to have mic number 2. This is just for you. Keep that with you. So is there an order? I think I have slides now to look at. There's an order. Does that say Speaker Idol? All right. Jim! Welcome to the stage, Jim. Jim began working. A few facts about Jim. He began working with SQL Server to document his video game collection, and then you became an accidental. You can use that podium to get set up. And I'll just keep talking about you, but don't say a word. You just spoke. Yeah, you'll learn. He loves working with Microsoft Azure and utilizing all the new technologies to better assist his clients. Oh, SQL Flip-Flops DBA, you're the one. Yeah, all right. And former U.S. Marine, so judgy people, keep that in mind. And he continues to stay active with his local VFW and assisting other veterans throughout the country and world. Thank you for that, and thank you for your service. And he needs help.
Oh, I just wanted to, I didn't want to like pull.
Yeah, he didn't want to break things. Remember that. He's very considerate.
We're talking technical.
Oh, and there's your mic. I was looking for it over here. Yeah, there's your mic, sir. I'm going to move this chair off. Yeah, okay. So I will just stand out of the way and sit here and stare at you. Yeah. We could try that, but is that what the judges would like? We could try a different laptop. I know, different speaker obviously would have a different laptop, so we could just.
We can find a laptop for you to use. I don't have them. It's all one.
What I would suggest we do is that you simply get your slides onto the USB, because we already know that this one will work for you later.
Yep.
And then we'll just go to the next one. And we won't count this against you much. Thank you, Jim. Sorry. Better luck next time.
It was great trying. Thank you.
Okay, so the 3 people who thought they had 5 minutes or more before they get started, who's next? Oh, wait, we have to come back over to me. I'll just announce it. Brian Carrig. Welcome to the stage, Brian. Oh, you don't have to do that. Well, yeah, okay. Yeah. So Brian is a Microsoft Certified Master. Congratulations. How does it feel to be deprecated? And he manages a team of talented DBAs at Channel Advisor. I'd ask you what Channel Advisor really does, but you don't want to start talking yet. In a previous life, he spent some time as an academic. So he's a smart one. He's wicked smart. And he holds a PhD in computer science. Actually, you are kind of smart. That's cool. And a native of Dublin, Ireland. So I'm surprised he hasn't punched me yet. He now lives with his wife and 2 daughters in Cary, North Carolina. Wow, that's very different. And if he's not talking about, thinking about, or working with Chelsea?
Yes.
Arsenal. I'm done.
how does that sound now? Okay, great. So it's designed to take advantage of new hardware, increase memory density in servers. Increasingly, production OLTP workloads are asked to deal with high amounts of concurrency. And the idea behind this, as well as being in memory, is that it's a fully optimistic concurrency level. So no locks, no latches, no spin locks, and then this way we get rid of a lot of overhead and we can have higher amounts of concurrency at the risk of having to ask your developers to retry failed updates. It continues to divide the SQL community as to the usefulness of this feature, which surprises me. That's why I'm going to talk about some of what we do with in-memory OLTP at Channel Advisor. So you kind of two main scenarios for in-memory OLTP adoption. One is a replacement for disk-based staging tables, which we implement as schema only, no durability, used in customer data marts. And this is where we started in SQL Server 2014. We did encounter a lot of bugs, particularly cases where the checkpoint thread for in-memory OLTP would die and fail to respawn, and the only way you could get it to respawn was to take the database offline and bring it back online, which is definitely not a nice thing to have to do in production. A lot of these bugs have been worked out in 2016. Lately, what we've been doing a lot of is replacing temporary objects in our databases with memory-optimized objects, particularly for cases where we're using disk-based table types. We replace them with memory-optimized table types for use with TVPs, and also just generally replacing temporary tables with memory-optimized tables, all designed to reduce contention in TempDB, often contention that you've no real good workaround for, such as contention on system-based tables in TempDB. Again, highly concurrent workloads where you can hit these kind of problems. All right. Okay. So this is just an example of something that we did where the only change we made here was we replaced a disk-based table type with a memory-optimized table type. We saw a 2x performance gain on this kind of procedure that was chewing up a lot of resources across our infrastructure. And we saw a significant reduction in CPU usage, and we tend to be quite heavily CPU bound at Channel Advisor, so this was all very good. And this, you can see a live rollout scenario here where we brought average execution times down from 75 milliseconds to 25 milliseconds and made the whole procedure call times more consistent. And I think the key thing I want to highlight is when you see these gains is just how simple the code change was to implement. So we literally created a new memory optimized table type that's the same as our disk-based table type but has this with memory optimized on. And then we just updated our procedure to use the new table type. And simple as that. This is something that could be developed and got into production, tested within mere hours, and you get those kind of amazing benefits. You get to look like a hero, all those things that are really good. Okay. Also want to talk about some of our kind of learnings that we've had from working with in-memory OLTP. One piece of advice I would give is to use Resource Governor if you're on Enterprise Edition to bind resource pools to user databases and control memory that way. I like to keep the objects in their own specific memory optimized schema. Because your I/O workload is going to be different for your checkpoint files, similar to how you handle TempDB and T-logs, I would put it on its own mount point or drives. If you're upgrading to SQL 2017, parallel redo is now enabled for memory optimized tables. So use caution if you're using direct seeding because you can exhaust your in-memory OLTP threads if you're seeding a large number of databases. So if you have that scenario, perhaps avoid using direct seeding. And okay, and one of the big barriers for further adoption for us is there's no cross-database transactions with in-memory OLTP, so that's something to be aware of. And also, most of your books online examples reference using hash indexes, so I would advise to understand the difference between non-clustered indexes and hash indexes. Frequently, hash indexes are inappropriate. If you're joining to other tables, you'll want to use a non-clustered index. It's just that most of the examples are based on hash indexes. And if you are using hash indexes, pay attention to your bucket count. And you can monitor this using DMVs, and you can rebuild the indexes with a new bucket count if you happen to have an inappropriately set bucket count. And also, an unusual thing to consider with non-clustered indexes is that they can only be traversed in one direction, so the sort order of your indexes actually matters. Sometimes it might make sense to put two indexes on there sorted in different ways so they can be traversed. Okay, that is me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Brian. You can just take the microphone off, but don't turn it off. Tim will take care of that. All right. So we will start with the judges in any particular order. I guess, how about the order of the person who has the microphone? I will call
that would be down
upon
here.
the distinguished gentleman from Boston.
So, good job. I think you went over just a little bit in terms of time, but again, we don't really we're not like ogres about that all the time. The one thing that I did notice, just taking out just from content and everything else, you looked a lot at your laptop and there you didn't do a lot of sort of engaging. Part of the whole speaking thing is to be able to engage with people and draw them in, because it's not just content. You have to, because I understand 5 minutes is hard, but you really have to get out of the laptop and just relax and just speak to people. So I think that would be one thing you'd want to work on, just in terms of the two things about the slides, and then I'll pass it on. You had Kaylin's book on your one slide. You didn't, unless I missed it, you didn't really make a reference to it, so I didn't understand why it was there in your talk, other than the fact that it just had the in-memory stuff on there. So either reference it or something, because it's not your book. It was just like, oh, it's the in-memory book. And the layout of the slides, I understand Pass's template is not the best. I will. Right, there's that. But in some cases, there were a lot of words, and the differences in how you use the template was a little bit jarring from slide to slide. So you look for some consistency between your slides for layout. Good, bad, or indifferent. Again, templates are what they are, but it just makes it easier to read for the audience.
So that was a really long way of telling him that he took too long.
I took care of that.
Next.
We have a judge of the judges. I like it. So you had a lot of information in there, and you have a lot of concrete details. And throughout the whole time, I felt like I was missing out on a ton of awesome stories you have. So these little details, like the checkpoint thread, if you had spent the whole 5 minutes just talking about how did we figure out this problem, what happened, and all of this stuff, I think that's the story that would have been amazing to me.
Yeah, it was a 7.5-hour outage.
See, that's the story I want. And there was also some little inconsistencies where we found out that some big problems happened, and then we got to a slide where it only would take 2 hours to test. And then the DBA in me is like, well, maybe we should have spent more than 2 hours testing, and we would have figured out that checkpoint. But I think if you talked through the stories more, and went sort of and scoped different, you'd have an amazing talk in here. And I would love to hear that talk. But that would be my big piece of advice.
Thank you, Kendra. Mr. Sims.
So I'll echo on the story. It's in a 5-minute talk. It's really hard to go through a laundry list of things because you don't have time. So the Slidosaurus you had on key learnings, that could be a 3-hour presentation on each one of those items. But without applying any context or any story, I have no emotional connection other than it's a lot of text. I'm sure it was pain, suffering, and misery. And even just taking one of them and going through in more detail would have hooked me in and presented a balanced side of, yeah, this is a great technology, but guess what? This is why it split a lot of people. The other one is screenshots can't be fuzzy. Watch out for aspect ratios on pasting things in, because all of the screenshots that came in, you don't get any credit for leaving white space on the slide. And when you paste in with a different aspect ratio, even sitting up at front, I'm like, I don't know what I'm supposed to be looking at.
Joey.
Yeah, the other thing I'd add to what Mark just said about that is the images you had. There was too small on the image on the third slide. I couldn't see it, and so zoom in and then use Snagit or pick your snagging tool that's built into Windows now. The other thing, you had one of your hands in your pocket most of the time, and you were making hand gestures, but they were very small. And we're up front, so I can notice them. But in a large room like this, it's kind of weird, but you kind of have to do bigger things to emphasize. I thought your tips on resource governor schema and disk were really cool, but I feel like this is a big, broad topic, and it's not a great fit. Like, you had 5 or 6 different topics that would have been a really great fit for 5 minutes. Like, I think temp tables in 2016, using in-memory LTP, row-level security, I think that's in those functions, I think that's a great story right there. Or, like Mark said, optimizing your hardware architecture for in-memory LTP, but it's such a broad topic. It's challenging to do in 5 minutes. And you took like, hold on. I had 601, and 30 seconds of that was your mic-ish, and that's still like 5:30, which is a good bit over.
Okay, so the great thing about going last is that I get to say, I agree with everything everyone said. One thing I want to point out, so this is Karen's pet peeve, is you did a great job making your text readable, what text was there, for the most part. So I'd like everyone to give him applause, a round of applause, and now a standing ovation. No, seriously, this is my biggest pet peeve. Like, yes, you should use up all of your slides. You shouldn't use up white space unless something else is coming to go into that white space. But you did a good job. I wanted to caution you on using red and green text. Not only is green text hard to read, no matter what template you've been given, don't use any green or yellow text. And red and green have accessibility issues for potentially a good 25 to 33% of the audience due to red-green issues. Let's see, there was one other great thing that you did. So the great thing that you did besides the text, which I just want to reiterate, is that you tackled a technical topic. What I would have done in 5 minutes is made a choice. Am I going to do an introduction to in-memory OLTP, or am I going to take one point and talk about it? And I think the problem with taking one point is you always feel you need to do the introduction. So generally, you either take one tiny point in a 5-minute talk, and then you announce, my presentation is for this audience. So I felt that your presentation was for fairly experienced DBAs and database designers. And if you had done that, then you would have more leeway to not cover too much. You still need to do some introduction. The mic issue, so everyone, we've all done this. We've not turned on our mic, or the mic isn't working. So you have to do a quick mic check at the beginning to make sure. And even sitting here, I wasn't sure whether your mic worked or if it was just far away. So that's the 2 reasons, is it turned on? Does the AV guy have it turned on? And is it in the right place? But great job, though.
Thank you. So, just to be clear, I mean, they gave you a lot of feedback, but I just want you to know, right now, you're in the lead. Okay. Yeah, just leave it here. It's for the next person. No, you can go now. All right. Show yourself out. All right. Next, Jonathan Stewart. Jonathan Stewart apparently has no extra information. He's from Columbus, not Cleveland, but to me, same difference. Really. And I know he does analytics, and he's excellent at it. And he's wearing a sport coat, so he's got that going for him. This is yours, sir. Well, we can wait for this, though. Don't talk to me. Yeah. I'm not making you nervous, am I? So far, you're doing okay. You got, yeah. I think he's done this before. He's using a Mac. Yeah.
I presented on Linux on a Mac at Ignite. Like, I never thought that was going to happen. I mean, like,
We have some water here for you if you need some. Oh, excellent. He still doesn't say a word. I'm impressed. Normally I'd be saying things about you, but you have an incomplete bio slide. I'm not saying that I'm going to judge you for that. I've already gone through everything I know about him. I don't have my note cards.
here's the magic.
I'm not going to make it up. Look at him. He will kill me. He will tackle me in the hallway.
Slide advance. And timing.
Yeah, it's a guarantee now. So I heard some metal in there. Was it like a corkscrew, or you always have an emergency corkscrew? Oh, yeah, okay, all right. You never know when there's going to be a bottle of wine and somebody says, "Oh, if only we had a corkscrew." Yes, right here, emergency corkscrew. I swear to you, I'll show you something right now while he's still getting set up. Ready? Watch this. This is my favorite TSA story. My favorite TSA story would be the fact that 4 years ago, I put an emergency corkscrew into my laptop bag. Is this recorded? So every time this goes through, the TSA has yet to say, hey, what's that thing that we don't allow in airplanes anymore in your bag? So you always need one, 99 cents.
Those are legal.
Those are legal now?
Yeah, as long as it doesn't have a knife, you're good.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure that they're legal. Oh, yeah. Oh, you already grabbed your mic. I was looking for that. You're way ahead of me. But I will sit here. Excellent. I'm giving you points for that. Yeah. Reset.
Start the clock. So good afternoon. Thank you for coming to our Speaker Idol session. Today we're going to talk about horror vacui. But before we get to that, let's do a quick bio since my bio wasn't in there. I am Sequelox, also known as the guy with hair. If you forget who I am, I'm just the guy with hair. So I'm a business intelligence consultant, so I do a lot of visualization and BI type of stuff, but enough about me. Let's jump into this and have some fun. So today we're going to talk about horror vacui. Horror vacui is actually Latin for the term fear of white space. And that's funny because we were just talking about white space, wasn't we? So one of the things about horror vacui, it's also known as kenophobia, which is Greek for fear of empty. And it really just means the feeling of all space and all void in the medium. And it can be anything from artwork to physical medium to auditory. So as we go with that, the term was actually made popular by an Italian art critic by the name of Mario Praz. Mario Praz was actually extremely critical on Victorian-era interior designs. And one of the things about, if you've ever seen Victorian homes, they were cluttered. They looked like that. And if you think about it, where's the white space? There was like a race to show how much we could put into this. How much can we put into this? And so he actually was making fun of people. He was an art critic. He was the original like Twitter troll, right? But he really was making fun of people because there was no white space. And so that propagated into art and stuff as well. And as you can see, it goes from obviously spatial all the way into artwork. Now, this will mess with you, right? This is one of those pictures that you look at and it just makes you feel uncomfortable, right? Because there's a lot of stuff going on here, but there's no white space. And we can go from the Victorian-era homes to artwork to dashboards. And that's what we're going to talk about today, white space and dashboards. Now, you may see this and you say, oh, that looks fine. It looks like my dashboard. I hope you don't say that's like my dashboard because that's about the poo-poo that. But one of the things about it is that where's your focal point? Where's your focus? When you design a dashboard, you are the artist. It's your story. You're telling your audience what you want them to see. And if you don't leave a proper white space, you leave it to interpretation. And leaving something to interpretation allows them to say whatever they want to say and see what they want to see. You may have made $100 million last quarter, but lost $10 million yesterday. You don't want them focusing on the fact that you lost $10 million yesterday. You want to focus that celebration, right? We made $100 million. We're 90 in the plus, right? So one of the things that we want to do is make sure that we're always focusing on where we want to focus on. So you can have your visualization and have the background set perfectly and just know exactly what you want to do. So I'm going to give you an example real quick. I'm going to give you two examples, right? So here we go. This is if you don't know, this is the United States Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation, under God, which stands with justice for all, right? I just gave you the Pledge of Allegiance. Where was the focal point of that? Where did I want you to focus? I don't know. Do you know? It's, right? I said it too fast. There was no white space in it. So let me rephrase that for you. Watch this. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God with liberty. Whoop, I messed up, right? But anyway, but one nation under God with liberty and justice for all, right? So while that was 98.6% of the same data because I messed it up, right? Who messes up the Pledge of Allegiance? I just did. But anyway, you get the point though. I gave you the same amount of data, but I put auditory white space in it. And putting the white space in it, I allowed myself to focus on what I wanted to focus on. Same type of thing happens with your visualizations. It allows you to focus on what you want to focus on. You want to make sure that you're focusing on what you want them to see, not what the audience wants to see. Don't leave anything to interpretation. It's your story. Your visualization is your story. You're telling it. Don't let the audience tell you what you're trying to tell them. You control that. So don't be afraid of white space. I know we get a lot of points too where people say stuff like, oh, well, there's so much more. We can add more space to it. Don't get caught up in that. Just simmer down. Slow it down. Slow it down. It's okay. It's okay. So with that being said, don't fear white space. Don't fear it. It's okay. It's okay to have some white space. You don't want to have a little small window here and, like that too, but no, it's okay. Have a little bit of white space because it allows you to control your narrative and your story because it's your story you're telling and you want to be able to control how your story comes out to your audience. And with that being said, I want to thank you for your time and you have a great rest of your day.
Where's the mic?
No, we usually go back and forth.
Really? But who's in
Yes.
control here?
We have the microphone.
All right.
We have the microphone, right?
Thank you for that. Wonderful job. Karen,
Yeah.
you're up.
Yeah. So thank you for that. Gosh, all the things. So first of all, your talk inspired me to go learn more about this. So that's a good sign of a great 5-minute talk. Although you apparently prepared this talk while we were speaking on the last judging thing, just to disagree with the judges. Yeah, I know. So extra points for that. No, that's great. Let's see, I don't want to steal all the ideas. I liked your use of graphics. I love that you attributed all of them, so good sign. Although your flag had only 48 stars. And that might have been okay, I don't know. But I think there was a different version of the Pledge of Allegiance when there were 48 stars, just to let you know.
Karen was there.
Yeah,
I was
gonna say,
there.
Karen.
I was there when that happened. Yeah. And no, it's okay. It's true. And I loved your sense of humor and that it was both self-deprecating and that you handled your little word baffling just fine. But yeah, overall, well, I guess, did I say anything bad? No, I said you disagree with judges, so that was good.
Thank you, Karen. Yeah, I like the way you did a quick, nice intro. I also like the fact that you wore a suit, and it's not, or a jacket and a tie, and it's not that I care how you're dressed. It's that you always want to have some place to clip a mic. Whether it's, there's a reason why conference shirts are always polo shirts, because you can clip to here. There's a reason why Sims always wears a vest when he speaks. Have a place to clip a mic, that's good. Nice use of humor, and I did notice that the dashboard you showed that was the bad one was a IT infrastructure dashboard, which, as a long-term DBA, doesn't surprise me at all.
So what I actually really liked about it, there was one message the whole way through and just got reinforced in different perspectives. And I really liked the use of showing the concept in an auditory and a visual and a semantic perspective to go, it's not just white space as in like that screen, it's white space in all its forms. So I really like that one message from different perspectives.
All right. Dude, that was hilarious. So when you got to he was the original Twitter troll, like you just like, I was like, okay, he's just got this. Like, this is great. One of the things I love about getting to be on this panel, though, is I learn things from every speaker. So things that could make it better. You're talking about white space, and some of your visual examples had a lot of white space around them. You can flood the slide with them and make them larger, and then put your URL attributions, bring them forward, and then put a contrasting color behind them. And it was just really apparent on the example where it had no white space, because I'm like, oh, but I see a lot of white space on this slide. So flooding the slide and kind of really making the point would be more impactful and would make the message even stronger. You have great movement, you have great body mechanics when you're speaking. At time, the pacing was more like pacing than moving across the stage. You did correct for that at the end, and you really landed it when you were saying simmer down with the hand movement, and that was great. I find myself doing that too, and just kind of getting in the rhythm too much of moving back and forth. There was a little bit of that, but overall very strong. Those were just the items I noticed where like you could make it, even stronger.
Just to add one or two things, I also like the fact that you moved around, and yeah, sometimes at times was a bit much, but the one thing that you did was you spoke to the room, you looked at different parts of the room, and like I said to the previous speaker, that's sort of one of the ways just engaging people. I liked how you changed, your pace and your diction depending on certain things. You certainly came in just slightly under time, which was really good. And the one thing that I really liked was it was about dashboards and white space and stuff like that. But by and large, you spoke to it mainly in a non-technical way, which made people understand it, right? So even somebody who isn't necessarily doing that would get your concept. And that's really hard for a lot of speakers to do, is take something that could be very complex and not very, it's very easy to say, oh, doesn't this look busy? But just to take a concept, as Mark pointed out, cover it in a lot of different ways and make it really understandable. So really good job there.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Cleveland and Columbus are not the same. They are not the same.
I just want to tell you that you are absolutely in the top 2 right now. So good luck to you. So I think we know who's next. Mr. Volk, welcome to the stage. Mr. Volk is I'm not going to say old, we'll just say he's experienced. And he is out of Atlanta. If you don't know the fabulous work he does down in Atlanta for SQL Saturday, the SQL chapter and the SQL Saturday event down there, you should. He's also a member of SQL Team. You blog there? Yeah, he almost said something. And you can find him on Twitter at SQL_R. And I do deranged things to see. You do deranged things in SQL Server, so I don't have to. Well, thank you for that. All right. So I will get out of the way for you, good sir. Good luck to you.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, everyone, for attending Speaker Idol 2017. I'm going to show you how we can speed up SpeedPass. So if you've attended a SQL Saturday, I think most of us have, you get a name badge, a lunch ticket, some raffle tickets for the sponsors who participate. We've recently been able to add the speaker and lunch type to the layout, so it's a lot more useful for attendees and organizers. However, you've probably also shown up and not had your SpeedPass with you. You had to wait in line while they print it for you. This typically happens when they don't have a good internet connection, and it's been difficult for them to handle this in an offline process. Also, as a courtesy, if you've ever spoken at a SQL Saturday or organized one, you tend to print all the speaker SpeedPasses ahead of time so they don't have to do it. And lastly, we also have another problem with non-attending sponsors. They have raffles as well. They need to be scanned and processed, but they're not there to do it themselves. I'm going to demonstrate some techniques to help speed up all of these processes. We're going to download all the SpeedPasses. We're going to rename them in a way so we can find them more quickly by speaker, by attendee. And we're going to merge them into one file to print for the speakers ahead of time. Also, I'll show you how you can speed up QR code scanning and also upload them to the site so that they can be sent to the sponsors after the event. In the admin page for the SQL Saturday website, there's a Manage SpeedPass page, and at the very bottom is the convenient download all SpeedPasses. You get them all as one big zip file, which you then unzip, and you get a whole bunch of blacked out screens with GUID file names on them. So this is not really useful for us because you don't want to have to open every one to see who it belongs to. Instead, we can go to the Manage Registrations page, and then we can also download the registered attendees list. This can be exported to Excel. It contains the name and the GUID ID for their SpeedPass. Once it's in Excel, we just have a little formula to concatenate a script that will actually rename all of the files to include the attendee name. Once I get that done, I'm going to use a PDF merge tool to actually create the speaker PDF file to be printed. So as you can see, this very simple Excel formula up at the top basically just combines the rename command with the original PDF file, and then I'm going to append or prepend the last name and first name of the attendee. So once I do that, I just copy it all the way down, all the attendees, so I can rename their files. Or I can use a little bit more logic and look for the non-attending people and not bother printing their speed pass. I'll actually just delete the file from the hard drive. So here I have about 768 GUID PDFs, and I'm just going to run a batch file to rename all of them while I also delete the non-attending people. And once I do that, I've eliminated about 100 or so non-attending people, and as you can see, the names now include the attendee name. Once that's in place, I can then search for the word speaker in the names, and I get a list of PDF files. Since they've now included the speaker in the speed pass, I'll just copy them over to a folder here, and I'll use this PDF TK tool to merge all these together. Probably just pick a few here, in the interest of time, and create a new speaker, all speaker PDF file. Now I can take this to Kinko's and print them all out as one batch. I don't have to deal with manipulating multiple files all at once. And if I don't want to do that manually, like I just showed you, Mr. Wayne Sheffield is an awesome dude who modified Kendall Van Dyke's awesome PowerShell script that will merge them all for you. The process is pretty much like you saw, except it's all automatable, and you don't have to do the manual part that I showed. Now that we've conquered the printing and the merging and all that, we can address how do I scan sponsors that weren't available or weren't present at the event. I'm going to take my phone and use my standard barcode reader application. I'm going to turn off the URL navigation feature. So every time I scan a code, it's not actually going to go to the URL. Once I do that, as you can see in this video here, I'm scanning a QR code about one every couple of seconds, like 1 or 2 seconds, and it goes pretty quick when you're not navigating from web page to web page each time. Once I've accumulated a bunch of scans, I can then go to the History tab. I can then send that to myself as a CSV file. And that CSV file is then the source of a command line or a PowerShell script that can process those URLs and upload them. By uploading them or visiting that URL, you now register that attendee as a sponsor raffle. Let me show you a quick batch file here. I'll demo, here are the URLs in this CSV file. Here's the script that will actually upload them using the wget utility. And as you can see, 12 or so were uploaded in about 4 or 5 seconds. You can also, if you have multiple files, so I have about 18 sponsors here with all of their scans, I'm actually going to run a loop over the text files with wget. I'm actually also going to put them into a window. And now that I've put them in a window, they're all uploading in parallel right now. So I can actually upload all of my sponsor raffle scans in probably about 4 or 5 minutes, however long it takes to actually scan them. And once that's done, all I have left to do is email those scans to the sponsors. Everyone's happy. I'm all done with my post-event administration, and now you can also use Speedier Pass. Thank you very much.
So we will start back at the other end with Alan.
So, first of all, kudos for you for doing a live demo in 5 minutes. That's always, I get sometimes nervous. Mine tend to be complex in an hour, let alone 5 minutes to pull it off, and you did more than one. So, you went over time, but not terribly, but you went over. A couple times your text was hard to read because it was either small or on contrasty backgrounds that probably weren't the best color choices. But that stuff is easily fixable. My 2 main comments, and then I'll pass it on because I'm sure others will get some of my other stuff. On the one slide, you had bulk download, rename, and merge. Download, rename, and merge were capitalized, and bulk scanning and bulk upload, just bulk was. Watch your caps and cases where it should and shouldn't be capitalized. And the other thing that this is just as somebody who works with customers all the time and is very sensitive to data, obviously you were using live SQL Saturday Atlanta data. You have to really watch, because there were people with real names and things like that. You have to watch that stuff when you're doing demos. So whether you could make it generic or, I mean, obviously they attended, there's nothing really horrible about that, but sometimes people may not want their names to show up in front of a.
I did scramble the last and first names against the Goods, so the only.
Oh, I'm just saying, but we didn't know that you didn't say it. So, but neither here nor there. Just you should, if you're going to do something like that and use what was live data, just make sure that you explain that, because you have people thinking that you used real data, and that could be problematic.
If it looks like real names, folks will assume they're real names. Yep.
So I loved that the topic is really practical and useful info for people to really make things faster, like legitimate things you can do to make volunteering easier. Like, I thought that was very exciting. I also liked how you experimented with media. I mean, you both did live demo, and then you had some embedded video in there too. I had a hard time absorbing it all. So some scoping and then some advice, like you showed us a demo and then you said this is all automatable. And I'm wondering, well, is there a reason I wouldn't use, which should I do? I don't know. Now I have two options. What is your expert advice is what I'm looking for. And that might help scope it as well to show, okay, here's the one I think you should do, and here's why it's better. So that would have helped me out.
So a couple things. The audience is pretty obvious in retrospect, but generally I would look to call it out explicitly. Basically, if you are going to run a SQL Saturday, you're really going to want to pay attention for the next 5 minutes. It will make your life much better. The other one was on the, where's my other note there? Oh, yeah, in terms of like, when you have a lot of demos that are going to be coming very close in succession, especially in a short time frame, it's good to basically draw a map. Because basically one of your slides was like A, B, C. Generally what I'll look to is actually putting a story of, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, and actually show the flow and refer back to that as you're going through your demos so folks know where they are in the story.
Thanks. That red PowerShell screen, I appreciate you doing that for admin stuff, but man, that was hard to watch in a presentation. A data architecture comment that I'm going to let Karen on. Is invoice ID really the name of the field for the identifier?
Yep.
It's not your fault, but yeah, wow. Okay, that's special. We all know my feelings on that organization's IT. Overall, the one other thing I'd like to add to what everybody said, I would have liked a quick intro to what SQL Saturday is. I know we're at Summit, and a lot of people might know, but it's still, SQL Saturday is this event that takes place all over the world on Saturdays, and it's free. Right. Bam. Cool. Otherwise, it was nice. And you were about 40 seconds over.
So, well, I'll start with my normal first. Good use of text. Everyone applaud. Thank you. That's how important it is. So before I start in my nitpicking, I want to say, Rob, what you accomplished in this 5 minutes as far as demoing, setup, your smooth screen switching and the way you set that up, very professional, very experienced, because everyone, if you don't know how hard that is, then you need to be speaking more and doing hard things like that. So I totally appreciate the smoothness of all that. I didn't know what all these tools were. I mean, some of them I knew, so I know you didn't have a lot of time, but I wasn't sure what those tools were. It might have been better to spend your 10 seconds, instead of naming the tool name, just say what it does, like if you're trading that off. But the one, to go back to data protection, so you use some production data to do your demo, and you tried to scramble it a bit, and that's good. But the one thing that caught me up was that you were saying that you could then email all these scans to vendors or other people, and chances are that might not be a good way of exchanging that data through open email to third parties. And it all comes down to the decision whether these scans have personally identifiable information in them or not. So, of course, once someone's downloaded, they can do whatever they want to it, but let's not advocate for doing something that might be risky. I also want to echo that I would love to have had sort of a process model or a list of steps that you started out, once you started going through it, that gave my head context, so that as you were going very quickly through all this, I'd kind of, in my mind, remember those steps or a process map or something to go through it all. But thanks, that was, I don't know if a lot of people appreciate how smooth that was.
All right, thank you. Okay. So back to the beginning, which is Jim Donahue. You don't need me to tell you all about Jim because we've already done that. And plus he needs this computer. So I think we do, because there's a dongle in this one. I don't know what that one's for, so I will leave the rest to you. So that would not be my laptop, so I'm just going to say yes.
It was my cousin's laptop.
It doesn't fit? Because that thing's in the way. Here, just take this one. I don't know what this dongle's for. I want to say there's a mouse somewhere, but it's just not here. So let's just take this out and go there. Yeah, I think somebody left it behind. Yeah, there you go. That's your dongle? Here you go, Carrie. Yeah, don't lose it. It's your laptop anyway. Oh.
No, that's my laptop.
Oh, okay. All right.
All right. Okay, start the clock. My name is Jim Donahoe. I'm affectionately referred to as flip-flops in the community. It's because of my choice of footwear, but you're not here to hear about me. Who here uses Azure, in particular database as a service? Great. Who here uses AWS? You're going to hate this presentation, step out. I'm going to go over using query performance insights to identify and reduce your high data I/O. How many of you have ever used query performance insights before? Oh, goody. Awesome. I was hoping Erin Stiletto would be here because we're actually going to talk about Query Store. And if you don't know Erin, she's really good with Query Store. Some requirements for QPI. I'm going to say QPI and Query Performance Insights throughout the presentation. So if I do say QPI, it's the same thing. Query Store must be active on your database to use this. It's enabled by default now as of May of 2017. If your database was created before May of 2017, check and make sure it's enabled because you won't be able to use this tool without it. The permissions are here. I really don't want to cover too much because I got a lot of slides to go through that take you a walkthrough of how to identify it. So we're going to keep going. For a business case, the story behind this is I work for a company called RDX. I had a client come to us say, hey, I'm spending a lot of money in my Azure. Who spends a lot of money in Azure right now? Right? Okay, too much money, right? So they're having the same problem. He wanted us to see if we could get them from a premium Elastic database pool to a standard Elastic database pool, right? QPI is not just an Elastic database pool option. You can use it for your individual databases as well. The biggest issue they had was data I/O. So they were using a premium Elastic database pool, which means they get solid state drives. Solid state drives, more money, right? Bigger pool sizes, but the big thing is the IOPS, the performance out of those. They wanted to get the standard. The big reason was, here's their spending per month and per year for their premium Elastic database pool, right? So I pulled this right off of the Azure calculator. Anybody can use this to find out how much your resources are going to cost. This is where we ended up getting them into once we got done tuning them over a month. Got them down to $33,480 just for that one pool, right? I didn't get to see any of the money, but the client was very happy, right? It was a good Christmas for them, I'm sure. But that's enough of this stuff, right? I'm a DBA, but I'm not the traditional DBA. When you're working with Azure, I found out you got to be like an accountant. You got to know how to architect. You got to know all kinds of stuff. So I do about anything is what I say when I work with Azure. So here's a demo. First, you got to log into your Azure portal. Select the SQL server you want to work with. And then since I'm working with my Elastic pool, I'm going to select my SQL Elastic pools here. There's the option. I know that they're a little blurry, but I did have to use Snagit, unfortunately, Joey. I'm sorry. So I want to choose the top option there, which is my premium standard pool. Once I'm there, you'll get to see a whole bunch of charts, right? The main chart that I'm working with is the eDTU chart. Does anybody everybody know what a DTU is? It's that fictional thing of how Microsoft's going to charge you all the money they want for using their services, right? There's actually really good blogs out there. If anybody's familiar with Andy Mallon, he has a great blog out there on what a DTU is and how they're factored. I recommend checking it out. It's longer than a 5-minute discussion to talk about what a DTU is. So I choose my data I/O, and my L database, you'll see at the top, they're ranked highest to lowest for average data I/O. I'm going to work with my L database. I click on L. You get to another window. I want to scroll down to support and troubleshooting. Query Performance Insight, QPI. Pretty quick, it's a pretty standard name, I think. Once I'm there, you have their charts. You see your top 5 queries by CPU, data I/O, and log I/O. Everybody know what I/O is, how much we're putting in versus coming out, spinning disks, solid state disks, right? It makes a big difference. So I want to choose data I/O because that's where my client was having the most problems. Once I'm there, here's the top 5 queries. Now, unfortunately, I don't pick the colors either. I'm sorry, judges. Microsoft picks these colors. But you see here, query ID 3340 uses an average of 0.28 data I/O percentage per execution, right? 106,000 times this query was executed over a 9-hour period, okay? So now we have the top queries. I'm going to drill into one. So I'm going to click on this one, and again, I apologize for the colors. It's really hard to see, I know. We click on that one, and then it brings me to query details. Now, if you have the appropriate permissions, you can actually see the query text right in the portal. When I work with my clients, they usually don't give me God mode inside of their subscription, so I have to do it the hard way. I select I copy that query text from there, and I log into Management Studio. I select my database, I run this query, and there's my query text right there. That's the query that's causing my high data I/O. It's one of them, right? So with my client that we were working with, over the time of 3 queries, we eliminated about 11 billion reads. That was billion with a B, right? So their stuff was very old. We worked them down. Bill Wolf's in the crowd. He did a lot of work. Everybody give Bill a round of applause. You're welcome. So in summary, if you have not used Query Performance Insights, check it out. It's a free tool. Query Store is free in your database. If you're not using it, you should be. Microsoft's giving it for free. Check it out. It analyzes your workload. It relates to database. It shows you your resource consumption. You can learn about your top resource-consuming queries, and you can easily identify the ones that will possibly drive up your costs. Oh, thank you, guys. Appreciate your time.
You are.
Use your laptop.
It's not my laptop, it's theirs, but okay. I just want you to know you're easily in the top 4.
So I got a 1 in 4 shot, what you're saying.
Now you got to stand there and listen to them, judgy. We start with Karen.
I'd rather face the drill sergeant.
Okay. So great recovery. We all have tech issues and everything, so great recovery from that. The only thing I would say, probably someone else would say it, is one of the ways you avoid tech issues is you come to the room where you're going to speak or another room with a similar setup and try to do a test. And even then, that might not work. Maybe the previous person before you was using Linux or something and jinxed everything. I'm not supposed to say that, I know.
True story.
Okay. One of the things you did a great engaging technique, asking people to raise their hands. But when you do that, people can't see and people aren't going to look around. So you need to kind of say, okay, about 24 of you, or better, a percentage of the audience or something like that. Say that back to everyone. I like that you didn't read your slides. That was great, even the ones that were a little wordy. One of the things is, again, for accessibility, if you're going to point out a specific fact on a slide, say the fact, right? So at one point you said, you can see this is how much they spent. Just take that extra step and say whatever it is. You were over time by
How much was I over?
almost
Let's just say
2 minutes.
40%.
Yeah. Yeah. So what else? But overall, you did a good job telling a story. Other than going over, you did a good job telling us what you're going to tell us, showing us some things and everything. And I learned something.
I like the way you did the demo, 3 slides and screenshots. That was pretty nice. Fix your screenshots.
I wanted to do the video like Rob did,
Yeah.
but when I did it, I don't know what happened. It got all like how it was like flashing before.
Yeah.
I did the same thing.
No, screenshots are fine. Just like make sure they're clear. Not aspect ratio. Yeah. You had some hyperlinks on your slides. They're useless to me in a presentation unless, if you want to do that, create a short link for it. So create bit.ly or aka-ms if you work there and have access to that. / go / whatever you want to talk about, just so that it's easy for me to remember and I can take away. I think that's about all I had. I like your delivery. I like the topic. It's a good fit for this.
So just watch out for acronyms in the title. For your title slide, you didn't call out query performance.
I thought I said it. And I just
You said it.
You did about 3/4 of the way through the talk. You did.
Yeah. Just watch out for acronyms in the title, especially if it's the title in a catalog for a conference. Yeah. So love the story. Great story all the way through. I thought you could have shortened, when I first saw the slide that basically says, this is what it was, and then we made some changes, and this is how much it ended up costing. I think you could have gotten rid of the slide where you talked about the process and just gone, starting money, finishing money. I didn't get the difference. So that part was fun because we don't get those. We tend not to get the money in the middle. No, that was the thing. It was just you went over a little bit over, and there was parts of it that could have been pruned out because the story when you told it was fantastic, and just a little bit less lead up.
Thank you for giving your talk. I loved your way of connecting with the audience about who spends a lot of money in Azure. I don't spend a lot of money in Azure, but I immediately felt interested. I felt connected, and I could sort of feel other people doing that too. That was really strong. A couple of things you could fix. When you know something is wrong on the slide, something is blurry, it is so tempting to apologize for it. And I'm still working on this myself. Do apologize when there's something incorrect, and call attention to something if you're going to mislead people. But don't resist the urge to apologize, because you're wasting time and you're sort of drawing attention away from the topic and pointing out something. Maybe the audience is looking at you and not even looking at the slide, right? Maybe they wouldn't even see it, even if you know Joey's going to complain about it. Resist the urge to apologize. I know it's tough, but the more you apologize, your audience feels a little uncomfortable. They feel worried too for you when you apologize. So you're kind of doing us a favor by just taking us through in the smoothest way possible. So that will make it stronger. I loved the clear call to the action at the end and the sense of direction you gave us of, you should do this, it'll make it better, and it tied back to the spending a lot of money. I thought that was a very strong finish and like that.
So again, I thought you told a good story. You wrote text instead of did bullet points on slides, and I felt at times that was hard to read. Sometimes it's almost harder, but more rewarding to come up with, when you had that business case slide, you come up with your top 3 or top 5, make them short, crisp bullet points, and talk to the rest. On that slide, though, again, this is going to be pedantic, and people are probably groan. Before my client on that first part, you had an extra space. It didn't line up. And I noticed you bounced back and forth kind of a little bit, almost like you were nervous. And trust me, I get that. But to people in the back of a very large room, that might be very disconcerting. You kind of have to watch your motion sometimes. Again, kind of like Kendra, it's like it's things that I have to constantly remind myself when I'm on stage, like, okay, sort of center yourself, move a little bit, but not too much, because other people start to focus in on things that they probably shouldn't. You also mixed things, like, for example, on the screenshot, it was data IO, no slash. In your slides, you used both, and on one, you actually used both on the same slide. So just be really consistent on, be really consistent in your use, even if it's something else on the, say, screenshot, but in your use of it, because otherwise it's, well, which is the right term? Not that I care about proper terminology ever. Yeah, right. And the only other thing I'd say, again, just in stuff you can improve, because none of this is, it's not like none of this is, could be fixed. When you were saying, I had that one slide, you were saying on this value it was such and such. There's a very little used feature in PowerPoint that I use all the time that's, and I know it wasn't your laptop, but you can zoom in, there's a little magnifying glass in the very bottom.
Only on Windows, by the way.
Yeah, well, then use a real platform. Yeah, totally.
But it requires software.
Right, and yeah.
Well, but again, I don't use, see, one of the reasons, again, I do a lot of anti-stuff when it comes to speaking, but I don't use any of that stuff, so I just have my laptop, so I always know that even if I have to transfer, I'm used to sort of gestures of, I can just go right to that, right? Because you were trying to make a point about the number, but I had to sort of search in that number to find the one you were talking about. So if you can zoom in somehow and just show that, that would make it more of an impactful thing. And then I'm not saying like zoom in and keep it, but just like zoom in and just so people know where it's, or if you know you can't do that, in the graphic, like put a red line around it or something to say, yeah, this is what I want you to focus on right here. But again, overall, good job, good story, a little over, but, all improvable.
Okay. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you for letting me use the laptop.
So that brings us to the most judgy part of the program, where the judges need to get out of the room, be gone. You will get, how long? How long do you need? 5 minutes? Probably 5 minutes, and then you will come back, or do I go out and get the winner? Like, how's it? And then tell me, and then I announce it, or you announce it? You announce it. So that's what we'll do. All right. So, I don't care what they say as long as it's about me. I think we're going to have somebody to sing songs for the final on Friday. Yeah, it's not going to happen today. So I actually took all sorts of notes from the judges, because I found it interesting. I wanted to judge the judges, not like I'm going to talk about them, but maybe they can hear me. So I was going to judge the judges on things, but I was noticing some of the common themes that we were going through. And I also found myself disagreeing with some of their assessments. So for example, the last one that stuck with me is Alan talking about standing still and maybe not moving as much. Because I'm a person, if you've ever seen me present, and I will wander the room. Because the other part that they've not talked about is connecting with an audience. So in a room like this, I will walk all the way over here and make sure at some point you are focused and talking with me. And I also know there's scientific studies about when you're on the left side of the room and you're more focused as opposed to the right side. I forget which one it was. But now I have you guys all the way over here, and I want to interact with you. And I'm going to be a person that keeps wandering. Yet for Alan, he gives the advice and says, no, don't do that. Be centered in where you are. And I immediately wanted to say, no, I think that's a horrible thing to tell somebody. You should do what you want to do, especially when it fits in the space. We had Locks talking about all this white space and filling it, and it was a great talk. Also be worried about that, yeah. But, think of it as your canvas, is the advice I would give. So as they were going through all the different things, I found myself saying, yeah, that's a great point. And they kept hitting certain points, and I'll try to aggregate it all and go through it at some point. But in terms of using that space, I found myself saying, no to this, no to that. But anyway, yes, Luis.
I don't think he meant not to move around, because they said nice things about him moving around.
Okay.
Because he was moving like this, not yeah.
Movement with purpose, okay. Fair point. Anything else that came up that you said that you may have disagreed with the judges being judgy? Yes?
One thing that I thought that was missed by all the judges is actually that in the presentation about white space, he showed us what a bad dashboard looked like, but he never showed us what a good
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
all right, so they missed that.
I was waiting for a great dashboard.
This is a bad one, but there was never come back to the
Anything else that the judges were horribly wrong about?
Not
Sorry.
really wrong. I thought his title was really interesting, but I didn't know what it meant when he started, which was cool in here. But if I was looking at a list, I'd be like, what is 4 about? I thought I might have had because of his title. I really like the title.
I was going to say this title might not have gotten
It's dangerous. It's dangerous. I have already missed one session here because the title didn't accurately describe what it was. And then later, when I was in another session, I saw some tweets coming in. That was what session is that? And then I looked at the title and I was like, oh, okay, they had given it another title, I wouldn't be there. So it can be, an intriguing title can be a way to get people in. It can also be a way to not get people in. It's a very dangerous thing to do.
So, but honestly, you're not supposed to judge a book by their cover, right? And yet, that's all you ever do when you walk in the bookstore, is you judge books by their cover, right? So the point about the title is, and of course, there's also the thing where somebody thinks they have to have like a cute title in order to draw people in. Honestly, you know what title? So I've done a few events and a few sessions in my time, and I have some data to back this up. But do you know what one word that you put in your title will draw people in, and it doesn't matter who speaks? Nothing, what, no. That is the wrong event, sir. I'm not going to say you're wrong, but clean it up. But there is one word for this audience. You put this in your title in one way, and you will draw an audience. Do you know what that word is? Bacon. Bacon would work. Performance. Performance. When you have a session and it just says performance tuning for or whatever, you use the word performance in the session, and you instantly, people know exactly what that is, they relate to it, and if it ties in, it doesn't matter who speaks, right? You can get 100, 200, 300 people into a room simply if they know what that topic is, and the word performance is a very clear word to use in the title. So,
The program committee is going to have nothing but performance.
well, they probably already do, but they just pick the one that they want, right?
The judges have come to a decision.
Do you want all the people to stand?
No, it's fine. We'd just like to let the winner know that, and everyone know, that this year we got sashes for the winner, and they're all fancy, except one of the judges was too experienced and thinking about other things and forgot the sash in a hotel room. So stop by our booth, I guess. Stop by the DCAC SQL AJ booth and come pick up your prize, which has to be worn for the final.
For the final. You don't have to wear it for 2 days, just for the final.
And the winner is, oh yeah, right, runner-up, sorry. In the event that the winner has, some ethical issues or goes to work for Microsoft in the middle of the competition, which has happened before, the runner-up is Rob Volk.
Hey, Rob.
And the winner is Jonathan Stewart.
John.
Congratulations. And good job, everyone.
So Jonathan needs to be here Friday afternoon, and you need to be here in the third session to find out if you are runner-up, if you are the wild card.
We're going to figure out when we'll make and how we'll announce that decision, because Denny ran this before, and I'm forgetting the logistics of how we did it, but we'll send an email out to all contestants about how we're going to do that sometime
So
tomorrow
he doesn't
morning.
have to be here for the third session of Vital. We'll get in touch with you.
Yeah.
All right. But don't go anywhere. Don't fly home. Stick around. Don't take a job at Microsoft. Don't take a job at Microsoft.